Bitcoin liquidity pools can yield triple digits APR even in bear markets. Sounds amazing, right? Here's the problem. Most of you aren't actually depositing Bitcoin. You're depositing a wrapped token controlled by a custodian that can freeze, depeg, or vanish overnight. If you never heard about this risk, stick around, because today I'm going to show you exactly where the trap is and how to earn yield on real on-chain Bitcoin. Welcome back on the channel, everyone. Today we're talking about DeFi, more specifically custodial risk when depositing on Bitcoin liquidity pools. Now let me be clear about something before we go any further. This isn't FUD. I'm not here to scare you into panic withdrawing everything tonight. That's not what this video is about. I have myself an ongoing video series about banking on Bitcoin, and I do use these exact same pools. But this video is about understanding exactly what you're trusting when you use some of those BTC liquidity pools. Because when you understand the risks, you can make informed decisions about which ones you're actually willing to take and whether the yields you are earning are worth it. So today we're breaking down, first, what custodial risk actually means in the context of BTC liquidity pools. Second, how the big three wrapped Bitcoin tokens, BTCB on the Binance Smart Chain, cbBTC on mostly all of the Ethereum ecosystem, and wBTC actually work, and more importantly, who really controls your Bitcoin when you use them. When you hold real Bitcoin, BTC, on the Bitcoin network in a wallet where you control the private keys, you have complete sovereignty. No one can freeze it, no one can seize it, no third party has any control. But the moment you exchange your BTC for a tokenized version like BTCB, cbBTC, or wBTC, among others, something fundamental changes. You no longer hold Bitcoin. You hold a claim on Bitcoin that someone else is holding for you. That someone else is the custodian, and now you're exposed to their risk. Bankruptcy risk. If they go under, your claim might be worthless. Ask anyone who had funds on FTX, Celsius, or Voyager. Regulatory seizure. Governments can force custodians to freeze assets. Hacks. Custodians can be breached. Mt. Gox happened over 10 years ago and people are still waiting to be made whole. And in DeFi, this risk gets layered. You're trusting the custodian plus the wrapped token smart contract plus the DeFi protocol smart contract. That's a stack of trust. Each layer is a potential failure point. Now let's address the three big wrapped BTC tokens, starting with BTCB, Binance's wrapped Bitcoin on the BNB chain. You send Bitcoin to Binance, they hold it and issue you BTCB tokens one-to-one. You're just tapping into that Binance pool of Bitcoin tokens. The custodial risk is straightforward. You're trusting Binance completely. If Binance gets shut down by regulators and they faced action in multiple countries, your BTCB could become unredeemable. If they get hacked, go bankrupt, or freeze withdrawals, you're exposed. Transparency is limited. You're trusting Binance's word. Bottom line, BTCB works if you are already comfortable with Binance risk, but know that's exactly what you're taking on. Next is cbBTC, Coinbase's wrapped Bitcoin. Coinbase custodies your BTC and issues cbBTC across Ethereum, Base, and even Solana. The risk profile is different. Coinbase is a publicly traded US regulated company. That means more transparency and accountability, but it also means higher regulatory risk. If the US government tells Coinbase to freeze certain assets, they will comply. They have no choice. cbBTC is probably the most transparent single custodian option, but you're still fully dependent on Coinbase. Bottom line, cbBTC is the safest single custodian option, but single custodian risk remains. Finally, wBTC, the original and most complex. BitGo acts as custodian. Authorized merchants mint and burn tokens, and since 2024, BitGlobal became the primary merchant partner. That last point matters. The BitGlobal partnership created major governance concerns. Aave literally discussed reducing wBTC exposure. MakerDAO considered offboarding it as collateral. wBTC looks decentralized but has centralized control points and governance risk. Bottom line, wBTC has the deepest liquidity on Ethereum, but the most complex trust model. Even so-called decentralized wrapped Bitcoin has centralization risks. So if these all have custodial risk, why do billions of dollars sit in them? Simple. Bitcoin's native network doesn't support DeFi. Bitcoin was designed to be digital gold, secure and simple. No smart contracts, that means no native lending protocols, no DEXs, no liquidity pools. So DeFi protocols created tokenized Bitcoin as a workaround. These let you use Bitcoin as collateral, provide liquidity, earn yield across DeFi ecosystems. The trade-off, you give up Bitcoin's core value, self-custody, in exchange for yield. Now, Bitcoin Layer 2s like Stacks, Rootstock, and Babylon are working on this, but their early and liquidity is limited. For now, wrapped tokens remain the dominant solution, which brings us to the alternative. What if you want BTC in liquidity pools without a single custodian? This is where Thorchain comes in. Thorchain is a cross-chain liquidity protocol that works with native assets, including real Bitcoin. Instead of one custodian, Thorchain uses threshold signature scheme vaults controlled by rotating validators. These validators must bond Rune worth 2 to 3 times the value they're securing. They have more to lose by cheating than they could gain from stealing. Now let me be honest about the risks. Thorchain has been exploited before. 2021 had multiple incidents. The protocol recovered, but smart contract risk is real. You're also trusting the validator set and the economic security model. If Rune price crashes dramatically, security assumptions weaken. But here's the fundamental difference. With cbBTC, BTCB or wBTC, you trust one company, one point of failure. With Thorchain, you trust a distributed system with economic incentives. Multiple independent validators who'd have to collude and sacrifice their own capital. Thorchain doesn't eliminate trust, it distributes it. Bottom line, Thorchain is the closest thing to real Bitcoin in DeFi liquidity pools. Not perfect, but it solves the single custodian problem. So how do you decide? Here is the hierarchy. Self-custody Bitcoin, zero yield, full sovereignty. Trust minimized protocols like Thorchain, distributed risk. Single custodians like cbBTC, corporate and regulatory risk. Less transparent custodians like BTCB, higher uncertainty. Ask yourself, am I being paid enough for the risk I'm taking? If cbBTC yields 50% with 3 trust layers and Thorchain yields 10% with distributed custody, is that difference worth the centralization? You now understand exactly what you're trusting. You're not blindly aping because BTC yield go up. Whether you choose cbBTC for convenience, wBTC for liquidity, or Thorchain for distributed custody, make it intentional, make it informed. Here's the bottom line, earning yield on Bitcoin isn't the risk. Trusting someone else to hold it for you is. Whether it's Binance, Coinbase, or a DAO consortium, wrapped tokens all share the same flaw. You're not in control. Now, knowing all of this, I still use these pools. I DCA into BTC liquidity positions as part of my own strategy, and I walk you through exactly how in this video right here. Eyes wide open, risks disclosed. Crypto can be a wild world, so look out for these things. Drop a comment if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, take care, keep exploring crypto, and I'll see you in the next one.